We all know that Elden Ring, as well as the rest of the Soulsborne series, are very serious games, drawing a lot of inspiration from mythology and weapon arts from all sorts of different types of combats. What if I actually told you that the most overpowered weapon that there is are in fact bubbles? Yep. Bubbles. So yeah, hello everybody, welcome back to another overpowered video. My name is Jazza and today we're going to be looking at the Envoy's Longhorn. Part of a trio of horns that you can find throughout the game, this one is in fact the absolute best that you can get, just both with damage output and also just ease of obtaining it when farming for it in your games. As you just saw, this thing packs an absolute punch-win scale correctly, so if you want to obliterate your enemies and become a true master of the power of the bubbles, then sit back, relax and enjoy this video. Make sure you're giving this video a like if you happen to enjoy it, and if you're new around here, why not subscribe, because that way I'll be telling you about even more insane weapons just like this. But of course, let's get this show on the road and showing you how to get this weapon and also make an insane build around it. Now in order to get this weapon, all you need to do is defeat the sort of middle ground envoys, because there's 3 different horns with 3 different enemies respectively, but this is the middle ground horn that we're going for. The main one that you're probably going to want to farm early on in your game is the one on the outskirts of the Lionel capital. So as you're coming down from the rampart site of grace and head down this little pathway, there will be a larger envoy, the middle ground envoy, on this sort of platform that you can farm to get the weapon. But if you're like me and you've gone too far into your story and turned the capital into the capital of Ash, you can also farm them in the Haligtree area. So don't worry if you've gone too far into your story, you can still farm them in the Haligtree area. More specifically, this one on this branch is the easiest one to farm. And then of course, once you've done that, we need to apply the right stats to it. So I'm just going to throw those stats up on screen for you, and as per usual is a level 150 character. So we've got 50 points into vigor, 25 mind, 25 endurance, 23 strength and 11 dexterity, because those are the stats that you need to actually wield this weapon correctly, and then essentially the rest go into faith. So intelligence and arcane just keep at their base values, which in my case are 10 as you're seeing on screen, and then you should hopefully then have 75 points into faith. But essentially what we need to aim for is as much faith as possible, because with these bubbles, they are sacred bubbles and scale best with faith. So for the most damage output, we need to be putting that all into faith. And if you haven't gathered by now, the bubble machine ability is an Ash of War, fittingly named Bubble Shower. So we're also going to be pairing this with some talismans that's going to help boost our Ash of War abilities. So obviously to start that off, we've got the Shard of Alexander, as that is the best talisman to boost any form of Ash of War damage that you're going to be dealing with any weapon in the game. So you pretty much need that as a given on any build like this. We're also running the Sacred Scorpion Charm as well, as that will boost the damage output with holy damage, which is what the bubbles are, so it's good to have that on. We have an additional bonus to our damage output with that as well, and to help with the amount of mines that we're going to be using whilst also spamming the absolute hell out of the Ash of War, we're also running the Carrion Filigree Crest, which lowers the amount of FP consumption when using skill powers. So like I say, that's just going to allow us to have a much longer shower and rain hell with our bubble army that we're going to send out to our enemies. And finally, I also like to pair this with pretty much any build that I'm running a Scorpion Charm, just because it helps negate the extra damage that you're going to be taking with that, and that is the Dragon Crest Shield. I've got the Great Shield on, which is the best version of it in the entire game, but if you haven't been to the Haligtree area and you haven't got it, obviously feel free to use any other type of Dragon Crest Shield, whether it be the +1 or +2 or just a standard one should be fine, but basically anything that can help negate the extra damage that you're going to be taking whilst also using the Scorpion Charm. Do that to avoid obviously having that further punishment whilst running that particular talisman. And then simply from there, the only other things that I would suggest doing is running the Envoy Crown as your helmet, because that will grant an additional 15% to your damage output when using the Ash of War again, so just giving you again that extra bit of damage, all making up for some astronomical numbers that we're obviously showing in the background. And then you can pretty much run any other armor that you want. I always try and push it to the edge with the medium roll, so at the moment I'm literally on that like plateau of going over into a heavy load, but I'm running Blythe's armor along with scaled greaves and leggings to give the maximum amount of poise along with the maximum amount of defense without falling into the heavy load. So yeah, you can pretty much run anything, just make sure that you've got at least a medium roll to obviously help you survive in PvP and also PvE situations, and just make your life a hell of a lot easier. And of course, we cannot forget the Wonder Physic, because that's also going to be another helping hand with the damage output. I was personally running the Holy Cracked Tier along with the Stone Barb Cracked Tier to help break stances, which is obviously helping out in a PvE situation, but if you want to go for pure damage, you can also run the Faith Cracked tier, which will boost the amount of faith that you have when you obviously pop the Wonder Physic. That will also help out with the damage output, but you can just run the Holy Cracked tier, which again will do that for you, and maybe put something else in if you want extra stamina or an extra boost in health, or if you want to boost your own defense, use the Opaline Bubble tier, anything like that to obviously help you out with your fights. And then just on top of that as well, if that wasn't enough for you, you can also use the incantations such as Golden Vow to boost again your defense and attack outputs by 10% on top of all of those already existing buffs. And then essentially, once you've got all of that up and running, you are then free to go and have an absolute blast using one of the best gimmick weapons that I've ever used in a From Software game. I remember making a video a couple of months ago on the Envoy's Great Horn and being somewhat unimpressed with how rubbish it actually was, because I thought it was going to be absolutely amazing, but it turns out I was using the wrong horn. I should have been using this bad boy instead, because as you're seeing in the background, it just obliterates literally anything. With one use of the Axe of War, you're doing more damage than what any other greatsword can potentially do in one foul swoop, and the benefit of this is it's brilliant against bigger enemies such as dragons, giants, and that's because with each use of the Ash of War, we're obviously covering our screens with those bubbles, and depending on the buffs, each bubble does around about 500 damage, meaning that if you can hit an enemy with the entire spread of the bubble shower, you're obviously going to hit them for a lot more. So that's why it's great against those larger bosses, especially someone like the fire giant, where they're obviously going to get hit by each and every bubble. You can go ahead and use things like perfumes and other things like Howl of Shibiri maybe, because you do have quite a lot of faith to run additional buffs if you want to do that. I personally just didn't, because I was trying to look for the most damage output with the weapon itself and talismans, and just make this build as easy as possible to make for you guys. But if you want to go all in, obviously on the PvE side, like I say, run different buffs and just bring this up to high heaven, you're probably going to do way more than 10,000 damage with each spray of the bubble shower, making for an absolutely ridiculous build with one of the most ridiculous weapons. I mean, if you're running out of ways to play Elden Ring and have an absolute joy whilst doing so, then this weapon is probably your one-way ticket to having one of the best times just laughing at the fact that you've just beaten Radahn in about 2 seconds with bubbles. Of course, as always, feel free to let me know in the comments if there's any other ways that you can boost this even further. It'll be really interesting to know what you guys have to say, and if there's any other ways to make this build even better than what it already is. But otherwise, I hope you enjoyed this video nonetheless. I hope you can go away, use this weapon, and have an absolute blast, because that's essentially why we make these videos. And I also just want to say thank you to everybody that's supporting the channel. I know I've said it pretty much relentlessly for the past couple of videos, but as of recording this one, we're literally at 9,980 subscribers, so I'm assuming by the time I've edited this, got it out live for you guys, we have probably hit the 10,000 or extremely close. So if you have a look down there and you see that we're on 9,999 subscribers, make sure you hit that subscribe button and push us over the 10,000 mark, because that would more than make my day. It would make my year, in fact. And guess what? It's free to do, so you can bring a smile onto my face for free just by hitting that subscribe button, and in return I could bring you even crazier builds just like this one for you to have an absolute blast whilst playing Elden Ring. And I think that's literally everything from me, guys, so thank you so much again for making it this far into the video and watching. Wherever you are and whatever you're doing, I hope you're having an amazing day so far and continue to do so. And I guess for now, I'll catch you guys in the next video of whatever it is that we make. Bye bye.